Good morning, everyone. I am here at Bear Creek Cemetery. It's a little hard to see. There it is, just so you can see it. Well, I'm here to visit the tomb of a famous rock star who is buried here. His name is Jani Lane. And for those of you that don't know, he was the lead singer for the rock band Warrant. They were spawned in the 80s, so they were a big hair 80s metal band, and of course into the early 90s. They released their debut album, which was Dirty, Rotten, Filthy, Stinking Rich, which spawned a few hit singles. One of them was Down Boys, and the other was the power ballad Heaven. Yeah, you know, the song Heaven. Heaven isn't too far away, closer to it every day. That one, yeah. Anyway, well, when I was in high school, oh my God, I mean, we used to sing along to that song all the time, especially like when we were in marching band and we would go out to these like band competitions. Well, when we were on the bus heading out to the band competitions, the song would come on and everybody would just start singing along to it. I'm telling you, I mean, it was a huge hit. Oh my God, it resonated with us because, I mean, it was such a huge hit. Anyway, well, so they achieved success from their debut album. And then a couple years later, they released their second album, which is Cherry Pie. Yes, she's my cherry pie. Anyway, yeah, so it spawned the hit Cherry Pie and of course a couple of other hits. They had what was it? Uncle Tom's Cabin and I Saw Red. So, I mean, overall, I mean, they really were on top of their game. Because I mean, really, Cherry Pie certainly put them over the top, you could say. And you know what was interesting too is that when Jani Lane was doing an interview, he said that he remembers when he was walking around Times Square around the time when the album Cherry Pie was released, he looked up at that mural and it showed like the big, you know, sign Cherry Pie completely overshadowing everything else, you know, all over Times Square. And what was even more weird was that I think a year after Cherry Pie was released, and while they were on tour in New York, he walks in Times Square and he looks up at the same location, and instead he sees Alice in Chains' Dirt that completely overshadowed everything else, because it was around that time when the 90s alternative grunge music scene from Seattle just like completely came in and well, for lack of a better word, it completely eroded and completely erased the 80s hair metal band genre completely, like, out of existence. And unfortunately, it eroded their career in the end. So, though, needless to say, Jani Lane continued to tour. He ended up becoming a solo artist, and he did well for a while. But at the same time, he was struggling with his own personal demons. Plus, he was struggling with alcohol mostly. But overall, I mean, you know, he certainly did his best to carve out a life for himself, you know, as he moved forward with the rest of his life. Unfortunately, though, in 2011, his life came to an end when he was found dead at a Comfort Inn hotel in Woodland Hills, California. He was actually in the midst of starting a new tour out in LA, and I think it was like right before he went on tour, so I guess his associates or so didn't hear back from him. They knew where he was staying, so when they went, apparently the maintenance workers or the staff went and found him unresponsive in his hotel room. Anyway, it was later determined that he died from alcohol poisoning. So, anyway, well, we now reached the location where he is buried. This is his location. So, let me see if we can get a little closer here. Yeah, so yeah, here he is. Here is Jani Lane. If we get a little closer right here, let let me move this here just so you could see. You could see where it says Jani Lane. Move this right over here too so you can see that a little bit. There we go. So yeah, Jani Lane. This is his tomb. And here is his wife, who's also buried alongside with him. His wife died in a car accident about 5 years ago, and it was actually pretty tragic. From the story that I've heard, she was thrown from her vehicle. She was ejected from her vehicle. Her body was thrown onto the road, and then she was later ran over. So anyway, it was pretty horrible and tragic. So anyway, yeah, but so she's buried alongside with him. And you know what's weird is that I didn't even know that he was buried here. Seriously, I didn't even know that. In fact, I actually got wind of it from a YouTuber named Lamont at Large. And he also has another YouTube channel called Fascinating Graveyards. So anyway, long story short, I got wind of it by watching his video. And once he told me the location, I looked it up, did my research. So I ended up to come out and see it for myself. So anyway, but this is where he is buried. And the location, believe it or not, is located. We're located right next to a golf course. So where we're at is called Bear Creek Cemetery, and it's right next to the Bear Creek Golf Course. Believe it or not. And those planes that you've heard flying overhead earlier, we're right next to DFW Airport. So, and believe it or not, both the cemetery and the golf course are part of DFW Airport property. So that's why you hear the planes flying overhead. So anyway, this is the final resting place. Another thing that I wanted to add on is that when I did a little bit of digging into his bio, and his bio was pretty interesting, believe it or not. A little weird at the same time. So he was born in February 1964, and get this, his birth name was John Kennedy Oswald. I swear to God, I'm not making this up. Look it up if you don't believe me. His birth name was John Kennedy Oswald. And I believe the reason for it was that, when I understand it, his parents were both huge supporters of John F. Kennedy. And because of the Kennedy assassination that happened the year before, I guess they were inspired by the late John F. Kennedy. So they ended up naming his son, after the late president. It's kind of weird because the family's last name was Oswald. But anyway, it later turned out that they had to change his name again. So instead of John Kennedy Oswald, they changed it to John Patrick Oswald. And now as far as his name, how he changed it to Jani Lane, well, his grandparents, who had a very thick accent, would pronounce his name as Jani. So anyway, long story short, he ended up keeping that name. And what was interesting too is that, and I almost forgot to mention, is that when he was a child, he developed a passion for music when he was like 5 or 6 years old. So he started playing multiple instruments, and then he eventually settled on the drums. Anyway, well, he just knew right then and there that this was his calling. This was what he was born to do. So after he graduated from high school, he went out to LA and joined this band, a glam metal band. And anyway, so the part where I mentioned about his name, the part where his name comes in, well, this glam metal band that he joined, they asked him, you need to come up with a feminine stage name. So it was like, okay, well, that's easy. I'll just use Jani Lane. And so anyway, the name stuck. And of course, then when he joined Warrant, he kept that name as well. And you know the rest of the story. So other than that, yeah. But anyway, that's just a little bit of back history on Jani Lane. And where he's buried again is the Bear Creek Cemetery. It's pretty easy to navigate. It goes in like in a little semicircle. And it's pretty easy to get to. So yeah, other than that, yeah, that's pretty much the whole story. So other than that, yeah, so hope you enjoyed this video, and take care, and I'll see you all in the next one. Later.